Hi everyone, it's Will.
And Race 35, episode 11, we're finding our pot of gold. I cannot believe how fast this season has gone by. I feel like we blinked and now here we are on the penultimate leg already. And to help us and join us for this recap is none other than our dear friends Leo and Alana. Hey
Happy
y'all.
Hanukkah!
Happy Hanukkah.
Happy Hanukkah. How are y'all?
Me too.
We're good. We're going to our second party on our second night of Hanukkah. We're doing great.
There's the one in the middle. 8
I love
crazy
it.
nights.
Oh,
I love it.
Pretty good, right? I
fun.
just came up with that. Look at those candles burning bright.
Well, we're looking forward to having you recap this episode with us. I know you joined us for the premiere episode, so it's been quite a minute since we've talked with you about this season. So far, how are y'all feeling going into this penultimate leg with the 4 teams that are remaining? Are you guys shocked at the 4 teams that are left? Did you hope to see us eliminated?
No, that's a good question. This season was so even. After watching the first episode, I could not have told you who I thought was going to be in the final 4. Like, now that these are the final 4, I'm like, oh, clearly these teams are like so great. Like, all of them are so competitive. They're so like balanced and blah, blah, blah. But like, no, this season was really good. I think at like the casting was really good at like, there were no weak teams. Same with our season. Like, there were no weak teams. Everyone was pretty, I don't know, like everyone was pretty serious about it.
Were there no weak teams on our season? maybe that's for another podcast.
No, but I see what you're saying, Alana.
I'm picking up what you're writing down. I was gonna say that like we definitely thought that like this is a challenge, right? With everyone being eliminated weeks ago, but Morgan and Lena and Victor and Jocelyn, I think fair to say, we all
Victor
thought
and
they
Jocelyn,
were pretty strong.
Here's the thing, though. I feel like they always had a tragic end to
They
them.
did. They seemed a little doomed based on the stress levels. But then we've got Annalee. Anyway,
yeah, we'll talk about
but like I think that we didn't see the latest Beard Boys coming in so strong.
Absolutely not.
You know what like I will say, everyone here has such a good attitude this season. Like, everyone is so positive, with the exception of Annalee, who is so stressed out. I love that she finally is like, I'm going to go to therapy and I need to be on anxiety medication this episode, because I was like, that's true, girl. But everyone is so fucking positive, and it's really incredible. And I think like, yeah, it's a delight to see. These teams are great.
Especially the final 3.
Yeah.
To play devil's advocate, I think that's been the biggest hit or miss for me this season. Is like, I think why I loved Morgan and Lena is because they brought such a like intense energy to the race, and I like watching that. I know a lot of people have a hard time watching Annalee, but like Annalee is feisty. She's bringing fire to the race, and I just feel like that's what's lacking with the 3 teams that are left. I'm excited, and I think they are the strongest of the cast, and I think they all obviously earned their spots in the final 3, but I liked the intensity that like Morgan and Lena and
you want Real Housewives of Amazing Grace.
You want the claws out?
I just love it. But you brought up our cast earlier, Alana. I think for me, like our cast, like looking back on it, like I just feel like we were all incredibly competitive, and there was a lot of hustle with all of our teams. It was like no time to dilly-dally. Like, everyone was constantly go, go, go. Like, even Haley and Kaylin, when they were hours behind everyone, they still had hustle.
Those girls are the queen of hustle, but yes.
Yeah, in all forms of the word.
I just feel like that's either, and I can't figure out if it's the teams were lacking that, or if it's because of the 90-minute episodes and how they're being edited, that it doesn't feel...
Yeah, I mean, you also see them, like, there are these, like, moments where, like, someone will pull over and be like, oh, hey, what's going on, before they drive off. And I'm like, oh, I never would have done that, because I was every second counted. Like, I wasn't going to celebrate extra with the judges. I wasn't going to do an extra long hung. I was going to be like, thanks for the clue. I got to read it and I got to go.
Exactly.
I don't think it's the edit. I don't think it's the edit.
Yeah, I think it is. I'm just like, I think it's nice to see, because I thought that attitude was needed to win. I mean, clearly not, because we're talking to other winners, ingredients. But yeah, but it's nice to see a bunch of people who are like have can not be like I was such an asshole.
It's fun to see.
Like I was like celebrating when teams were behind, and I don't see that this season.
Right. It's fun to see. We wouldn't be that way. We don't aspire to be that way. We're not in a process of reformation, but it's fun to see in others the positivity. And I also think that you raise an interesting point because Anna Lee, I think like it's a little jarring to see what like the way she is on this season where it is such a contrast. I think she might not even stand out. On a season like ours.
Right.
No, yeah.
That's actually a really good point.
It's almost like, why are you playing this hard? Like, that's not the vibe, Annalie.
And real well with our season. Really good point. Will, what do you think?
No, I agree. James has been rewatching old seasons, and so I do think that there was a lot more like dynamic relationships in this season. It is just a very like hunky-dory happy group for this final three now. I don't know, I love a little bit of like learning something or like experiencing a challenge within the partnership, and I think that's really happened with the final three teams.
That's a good point. There's not a lot of like growth that we're seeing on camera. Yeah I remember, and I can't remember if it was Final Four or Final Three, but I think it was James. You said how like our season got super competitive. Yeah. When did that happen? Was that Final Three or was that this episode the Final Four?
It was Gary and D'Angelo, right? Like
it was after Gary and D'Angelo got eliminated.
No, but like I know that was a salty elimination, right? Where like
it was like Final Five when it was the 5 teams,
right? Yeah, I just remember here, like I remember you saying about how like things got, and I'm like waiting for that moment this season. Like maybe the final episode will be
either just like. And again, I love the cast. Like everything is so great, and they did a really good job casting it. But I just think there needs to be a little bit more balance in terms of like casting teams that do have maybe some sort of like internal like bickering.
Or maybe we just lost all those teams early.
We did.
Yeah, that's also true. Because I feel like the season started off really, really strong. Then also with these 90-minute episodes, and there not being that many teams, it just feels like things are drawn out more.
Was it? I might be getting both of these names wrong, but was it Robin and Chelsea?
Yeah.
There was some growth or something.
Something.
They had a weird dynamic.
They had
it's stressful, and that was showing.
Okay, let's talk about this leg of the race. As we know from the very beginning of this episode, teams have to book their own travel. We love a little product placement with the mobile app for Expedia. Traveling from Stockholm all the way to Dublin, Ireland. And once they land, well, I love how they're all on the same flight despite having to book their own flight on the Expedia app. But once they land in Dublin, everyone's pretty much, it's an equalizer, even page. Everyone's darting out of the airport. We hear a little bit of conversation about roadblocks this season in terms of like, okay, well, Rob, he's already done 6. Corey wanted to wait, thinking that as the legs went on, roadblocks would get a little bit harder. So their roadblock count is 6-4, which means Corey has some work to make up. I don't know about you guys. I mean, you guys had a roadblock strategy on our season, didn't you?
Yeah, part of it was heights.
Yeah, we were constantly trying to front load things. So I would do more roadblocks. So if we hit a heights roadblock, I was never forced to do it. That was basically it, because I would probably have had a panic attack and like not been, if I would have been able to do it, which I still don't know. Like if we had hit a bungee jump challenge, I still don't know if I would have been able to do it. But we tried to make it so that Leo would always.
That's when the old Amazing Race shove comes into play.
Because here's the thing, like when they jumped out of a plane, I was like, I could do that because I'm strapped to a person, and then the person will jump me out of the plane. But the bungee jump thing was never. I was like, I don't think I can throw my own body head first off of a cliff.
You think that? I thought the same thing, Alana. I thought the same exact thing, but when push comes to shove, you'll be surprised.
Shove.
Yeah, right.
But even Stephen and Lee were talking about the same thing. Like Anna Lee had been up in roadblocks. Steve was down too. I just feel like this late in the race that sometimes is a gamble, which is why Will and I always tried to alternate the best we could our roadblocks so that we wouldn't be stuck in a pickle because I mean, God forbid, like Steve or Steve or Corey not being able to do like any of the roadblocks.
Right, I was so nervous for Corey because of the dance roadblock, and I was like,
It could have been
you did so bad. I was so stressed out about that, and then he knocked it out of the park mainly because he was trying to impress that cute girl who was helping him out.
It was so cute.
It was such a cute moment. When they land, obviously they have to go to Dublin Bay, the 40-foot, and they have to search for their next clue in the water, which would be attached to a buoy. It's a little bit of a polar plunge, which Steve was very clear that he was not a fan of. He thinks polar plunges are really bad for you. I felt like this was a pretty straightforward task. But before that, it's self-drive. And Leo, I'm so glad we're on this recap with you because you are the king of stick shift.
I still, you know how like George Santos is doing Cameo? Sometimes actually, you know how you usually have to sign up for a lesson? Sometimes I just provide them to you.
It's true.
What are your thoughts on their stick shift driving ability, but also the fact that they were driving on the opposite side of the car?
Oh, yeah. I mean, nothing stood out to me in that. I think like they all seemed pretty comfortable, right? Like they were all prepared. I can't remember if I've driven stick shift left-handed. I do remember as I watched the episode thinking probably overconfidently, oh, I'd be pretty good at that. But definitely would be like eating cereal with your left hand, I think. If you're already good at eating cereal, you could probably do it. But I think we saw Steve run into the curb, right?
Right.
Fun fact, this is like sickly, sweet, cute. So sorry in advance. But when I first met Alana, I was so like over the moon that I like ran her car into a curb because I was just like delighted that we were like living life together, and then we were getting groceries, and then I just like wasn't really thinking, like I wasn't lost. I could see it. I was just like do.
I was like, he can't drive. I spent like 6 months. He can't drive a car.
Oh, anyway, no, they all seem like stick shift didn't really seem to be an issue. Yeah, especially like once they got going. And they got going, which is like more than some teams can say.
Right.
Yeah. We were a plumbing issue.
You got going. We dealt with the issue.
Right. Like I'm remembering like Morgan and Lena had really hard time with the last stick shift. Like I feel like they would
knowing their left from right.
Yeah. And didn't know their left and right. Yeah. They would have been really funny to have on the other side of the road stick shift.
I mean, that's what my subscription for Paramount Plus is supposed to pay for, is watching people epically fail driving stick shift. I don't know. I'm not loving that.
Well, one of the thoughts that I had I think James and I talked about it, but I think they need a season where people have never been out of the country or like don't have all these experiences in life. Like this just needs to be like fish out of water, like really just experiencing things for the first time. Because now all these teams are so learned about the Amazing Race that they know they need to prepare for stick shift. They know they need to prepare for directions. And they're all doing it. So it just kind of like, what else can you throw at them to be unprepared for?
Yeah.
I would, to play the devil's advocate, Will, I would say that there having been like tens of seasons of Amazing Race before that hasn't prevented people from showing up unprepared with a stick shift.
Like not knowing your flags and not knowing how to drive stick shift are two like huge fails.
And swimming,
yeah.
What I'm disappointed by is that so many of the self-drives were automatic. Yeah. Because I think that it just so happens that the final 3 teams are all competent stick shift drivers, right? Yeah. But like if it had been, there were a few teams who clearly weren't, and then there were a few self-drives where it was like all about navigation. And by the way, navigation is something that like had a big impact on Steve and Anna Lee, right?
It sure did. I mean, I feel like Steve and Anna Lee, I rewatched it today. I feel like Steve and Anna Lee were actually kind of the front runners because they seem to be, in the edit, the first team to see Castle Park, which is where they need to go for this clue. But because of the missed turn, they obviously fell to last place. But I'm also like, oh my gosh, if they hadn't missed that turn, I wonder how different this entire leg would have been for them. Because that seemed to be like the turning point, very like from the jump, it just behind.
I think
running.
Fire making in Survivor is another classic example where like it blows your mind that someone would show up to Survivor not having practiced fire. And yet it happens every time. And to me, that's like part of the entertainment value is like, I cannot believe that this is playing out this way.
Well, sometimes I feel like these teams, you would hear them ask for directions, and this person would go straight and then turn left and then turn left, and they'd be like, okay, great, thanks. And then they would run away, and I'm like, if that were me, I would be like, what the fuck? That's not helpful at all.
On your phone, like with my notebook, like drawing every.
Yes.
Yeah.
I need to see the map. Don't tell me which ways to turn. Just show me the map on your phone.
But then also, if you miss the turn, you can correct for it. It's just, there was a lot of that.
We get bad directions at
we
one
did.
point.
We got bad directions on our way to the dance disco in Berlin, and it killed us.
Yeah, it was. And people like,
we were 30 minutes behind.
Yeah,
I
think they see the cameras. They also, that combined with being like people pleasers who just want to have the answer, and it's like, you live here, but like I don't know how to get everywhere where I live.
That happened last season when all those 3 teams got all those bad directions from locals about how to get to the subway stop. Like
that last episode.
That
was epic.
That's right.
That's why. That's why the Beards won, and that was like
that was an incredible.
Yeah, that was some of the best.
So deserved
this season.
Yes. Well, this.
Oh, James.
Freezing just watching them. I don't know if anyone else noticed this, but Joel and Garrett were the only team that put on life jackets.
Yeah.
Like nobody else put life jackets on. I almost think that life jackets probably would have helped Steve a little bit.
I was like, also for the warmth, put on the life jacket. It's a little bit of body protection. Like, what are you all doing? But yeah, I mean, obviously the brothers are like incredibly athletic and just like hopped in and just did like a little lap in the freezing cold pool and came back. But it was impressive that those teams do that.
Yeah, that was like open water swimming, basically. Yeah. I mean, I didn't think that was the, like, if you're comfortable with swimming, sure. But even then, like, looked like you had some pretty significant waves or just kind of swells or currents. So easy in, easy out if you can really swim,
Steve.
but
brave in the water.
Yeah, I'm surprised he wore his shoes into the water.
Yeah,
and then
I immediately was like, what? And then I kept thinking during the dance challenge later that his shoes were wet as he was practicing. Like, I couldn't get it out of my head.
I was always like afraid to have wet shoes or wet socks at any point during a leg because that just like, it's
it really
worst feeling.
Yeah, that was
we had extra shoes.
Our big bags.
Did we ever switch? I don't even know.
I wore because they were trail shoes. I wore them for the beach, the Brazil leg for running on the beach.
Yeah, we spent a lot of time worrying about our feet and socks getting wet. I don't know. That was just like our thing.
Yeah.
We did too. We had 2 pairs of shoes for
Yeah, that shows that we were prepared. I'm proud of us.
Rather be prepared than unprepared.
Top shelf Amazing Race teams right here.
After this task, they had to make their way into town and find this theater, the Gaiety Theater, where they would find their next clue, which happens to be the roadblock, who wants to get their steps in. Each team member had to perform 30 seconds of an Irish step dance routine from Riverdance in order to receive their next clue. Leo and Alana, if we were on this season, which of the 2 of you do you think would have done this? Yes.
I think this would have been so fun. Also, once you saw that the instructor, this would have been a challenge that I would have done wrong because I would have practiced for a really long time and then once you see that the instructor is calling out the steps for you, all of a sudden the challenge becomes totally different because it's about speed.
Well, to be fair, I think we would have
exactly what Ray is saying.
That, but also I think we would have not made that mistake. So when we did the bottle dance challenge, we realized pretty quickly that like as long as there is an open spot, just have a go at it.
Yeah, just try.
And we learned that during the challenge.
You're right.
I think that hopefully we would have figured it out during this challenge, but certainly like having that experience, we definitely would have just been like, are you like, let's just go. Because then you get that information.
Right. It was, I will say, like, I was so impressed by Corey.
Yeah, that was like, he was really good. Well, he was like inspired by anime.
Anime.
I really want him to have that shirt just in his wardrobe.
Yeah, so
I would love to know that. I would love to know if they've kept in touch since the rehearsals, if maybe they found each other on Instagram. But going back to the whole like just keeping yourself in the routine rather than taking a step back and getting, if there's no line, just keep doing it over and over. Joel made that mistake.
Yeah.
He did it. And then after a while, I was like, I'm just going to go back to the rehearsal room.
Right.
I mean, I don't know if there was a rule or not, but like, if Steve's going, just go backstage, listen to the music, and practice backstage. Why go back to the rehearsal room?
Practice with those shoes on, because that seems like part of the challenge. Like, don't change. And also, all of that takes time. Yeah. You're right. You're right. He was so clearly struggling, and I felt bad for him because he's so good at being vulnerable and like open about how insecure he was. He's a really good narrator of his feelings, but it was like really hard to watch, and I was nervous he was going to be there forever.
Well, this whole entire Riverdance segment felt like forever. I sped this part up just because it's funny watching them sped up. But I gotta admit, I kind of got over it after a while. I just felt a little too freaking long. I was like, we get it. It's a failed attempt after failed attempt after failed attempt. Like,
so I think, James, I think
was too long for me in the episode.
So I have a theory here, which is that I think being parents of a toddler, we found this to be just kind of nice just to watch. We're just like, it's simple.
Right. I was like, they just have to get it right.
Like my mind is soft.
I also want to say that this guy, for the judge for this for this challenge, was so fun.
He was.
I love the judge.
Great.
Also, I'm thinking of the other judge from the season that I remember is the woman who judged the fish stall, who was like so enthusiastic about everyone succeeding. But this guy was so good. Like, he was bluffing. I loved him. He was having a time of his life, clearly.
So I also, this just as a callback, this reminded me of who are the guys from Kentucky? There's like they came back a couple, but I'm like blanking on both of their names right now.
Are you thinking of Bopper and Mark?
Bopper and Mark.
Bop, wow, impressive.
Thank you.
You too.
They were. I remember one of them was stuck up there in India, I think, doing a dance in the heat.
Oh yeah.
For a long time. And that one sticks in my mind.
Yeah.
But yeah, Alana would have done it also because, like, our strategy was kind of boring. If it was clearly not a Heights challenge, she was doing it.
Except for sometimes I choked. Like, the first challenge of our season, I should have done by our own logic. But I was
but it was a music challenge.
But I was panicked, and Leo was like, "Oh, it's music."
There were exceptions made.
But I was also like, I could not. My brain was not functioning at that time.
Same, Alana. I was like, "Will you do it?"
I was still thinking about the fish colors. I can't do anything else.
Yeah, that was a lot. That was a tough episode. But there was a music challenge, and then like also if there was like a baseball challenge, I would have like insisted on doing it. But then like anything else that wasn't Heights early on, right?
Yeah.
We were planning to just like run out her challenge until I was the one who was being required
like
to
Leo
do
would have had
challenges,
such a good time doing the Hurling challenge this
I would have loved the Hurling challenge.
like that, yeah.
But I would have not. I think I would have said, well, it depends.
Yeah.
It all depends on like where we're at in the race. Like it's hard.
I do love that when Corey and Anime were rehearsing, she tells him up front, like, this is what you're being judged on. She said it was posture, performance, which includes always smiling, the turnout, and last thing is just working together as a team. So it's kind of nice knowing up front, like, even if you like trip a little bit, like, as long as you have a smile and the posture's good, like, I feel like there's a little bit of flexibility there. Will, you being a dancer, what did you think about all these?
Oh yeah, they were constantly messing up. Like, I don't think anybody ever did it perfect.
No.
It's kind of like when all of us did the chicken dancing.
Yeah.
You didn't have to be perfect. You just had to perform. And I think
you had to look a little bit foolish. I think that was part of it.
Yeah. I noticed, I'm pretty sure that one of the requirements for that the judge may have just had personally, he was like, I'm not going to pass you unless you finish at the right time. He's like, you can do whatever you want in the last 3-4 beats, but you got to end at the exact right time. Right, because it seemed like Steve and Joel both continued to fail. They would like lose steam and give up and never finish alongside their partner. And it was just like, and he was like, I can't pass that. Right. Like, I professionally, I can't past that.
I think that's a perfect example for like future racers. If they're doing a performance or any kind of judged roadblock, don't judge yourself. Just like stick the landing, stick the move. You never know. Rather than just like all of a sudden like throwing your hands up and being like, oh, I fucked up, you know, like don't make that choice for yourself. Wait till the judge tells you.
And that is life advice, by the way.
Yes.
Right? Like that's if you're serving on Top Chef. Oh, it also applies outside of reality TV, right? That's if you're like giving a presentation, right? Like no one cares what you think about your own presentation. Let them draw their own conclusions.
Right.
Exactly.
I think there's an added pressure to this, which is hard to explain, but I remember feeling really concretely when we were doing the Kazakhstan challenge, where when you have a group of people that has to do work alongside you and you make them do it over and over again, there's like this weird additional like, oh my God, these poor people are having to do the river dance for the 8th time. This is so exhausting. And like you're exhausted, and like these poor people are having to perform the same great con thing like over and over and over again. We had a break in which literally some of them told us that they were tired and cold. Like it was, and so I'm like also thinking about that weird pressure. But I'm like, but that's another reason to not give up.
Some of them were trying to tell us the answer, but like they didn't know the answer.
They were just like, please be done. And we were like, we can't be done. We don't know.
How many horses?
How many? It was really
how many spears?
But for that reason also I was sort of frustrated with Steve because it was like all these people are trying to help you succeed and you're just stopping. Like that was really annoying to me.
Yeah, fair. I mean, he always knew when he messed up and like would stop himself and kind of like get flustered about it. But you know, after 9 attempts, he finally nailed the landing. And I just I know you already talked about it, Alana, but the judge was just
so great.
A highlight. Like
so
he's like a teammate you would want on
yeah.
Kind of boosting you.
Yeah, if we're talking about advice for future racers, I would also add that when we were doing the chicken dance, what we learned sort of in the middle of it in Berlin was that part of the challenge was Bertram, the producer, standing there at the challenge shouting, "More chicken!"
He was shouting at us, "Be more chicken," for so much of that.
I was like, what does that even mean, Bertram?
I will never get that out of my head. That
more chicken!
Be more chicken! And we were just like, let us
so just make complete fools out of ourselves. Got it.
It's like, okay, Bertram. I wonder how much of that was. There's like
now the question is, was Bertram in the back doing the river dance, being like, right, more river dance?
Who knows? Like that is the most production ever interceded was Bertram just demanding more entertainment for himself in the moment.
More Irish.
He was producing.
Yeah, he was producing.
Very hands-on.
After the Riverdance, teams had to make their way to Croke Park in order to find their next clue. And this is the leg's second roadblock, where a team member who did not perform their 6th completing and catching a pass and then scoring. I mean, again, I think this is a pretty straightforward. There was a little bit more to it. I just feel like these 2 roadblocks are very coordination heavy, and I just would have been nice to see maybe a little bit more diversity in the tasks. I know it's like more sport, but it's still coordination and picking up movements. I don't really know what else to say about it. Do you guys have any thoughts about this roadblock?
Well, I just think it's so cool that there's a sport that's 3,000 years old.
Leo turned to me and he's like, "That's older than Jesus."
That's amazing.
True.
It's true.
I don't know the
Jesus
details.
Played Hurling. Who knows what he was up to in his free time?
Older than Jesus. I mean, yeah, that's a really good fact. The 3,000 years old. That's really cool.
Cool to learn about that sport. It's funny, James. I had a different thought about this, like, because I was like really excited about like the doing something like sort of in nature with the swim, and then doing something that was like dancing heavy, and then doing something that felt more physical, and then doing the memorizing literary thing. I thought this was a really balanced leg. Like I was really I
love that. Yeah, that's a good perspective.
I think for me also all of these challenges felt like actually connected to Dublin, whereas sometimes you're like, why are they doing this in this country? Like, I don't really understand, but these all felt really like grounded in the culture in a way that was really exciting to me. Like I was like, Riverdance, check. Crazy sport I've never heard of, check. Like it was like weird Irish plunge in a cute community pool that people were actually clearly at, not planted by Amazing Race. Like cool. Like it all felt very like actually stuff that would have been fun to do in Dublin if you were in Dublin.
Yeah, I think I agree. I think that also what you're saying is that it was a really good day. But also I think that I thought that the Sweden leg, I don't know what you all said about that, but like I was kind of underwhelmed by what they did. Like like the violin thing in the theater. I was like, so the challenge is to walk into a theater and find the staircase.
Right.
And then there's
Find the woman.
It should have been you playing violin, Leo.
Like it's not that hard to find her. They should have blindfolded them or something.
Yeah.
So, like I thought like the balance felt nice. Like I thought they were like it was fun to watch because I thought it would have been fun to do. I think that's how I feel. I agree that there was like the hurling challenge didn't seem that competitive. Like the soccer dart or the football darts.
Yeah, they could have made it harder. They could have made it harder for sure.
Like the fact that people were doing it on like the first or second try. Like, come on.
Yeah, no team got stuck on it, and I feel like at this point in the race, teams should get stuck.
I feel like teams should get stuck on every challenge. Like if there's something wrong with the challenge if someone isn't there for 3 hours.
Well, like I'm rewatching season 9 right now, and one of the roadblocks was like a puzzle. They had to put together this like statue, and there was 2 extra pieces that had nothing to do with the puzzle, but teams stressed so hard over these 2 pieces. Where do they go? Like I just feel like there needs to be something. It's like we brought this up a few recaps ago. The truck in Bogota is a perfect example. Decorating it, that seems very straightforward. But when you're in the moment, you forget to hook up the horn. It's just something small like that. It just needs a little bit more.
Yeah, there aren't a lot of like read your clue.
Like gotchas.
Yeah. And our season had a couple of those, and that did make it more fun. And that's where people tripped up, like not like forgetting your groceries after you turn them into the guy to get in Brazil. Like the horn is a really good example. Yeah.
Groceries is a good one
the
too.
Groceries
when people have to go back.
Messed up so many people.
So many people too. It wasn't even just like one team. It was like the whole group of people.
We were like, nice. We remembered our groceries. This leg is going to be smooth sailing.
I do like your view on the episode, Alana, in terms of like how the leg was structured and all the different tasks. I think you're right. I think I
just would love to do these things as a tourist. Like make them a best amazing race leg, but like I would have been so excited to do all of those activities if like, they had been planned for me.
Yeah. It's almost like with the hitting the ball, what they call it, hurling. They should have had to get more points.
Yeah.
Like just get more points, not just hit it one time. Like try and like
or have someone trying to tackle you as you do it.
Right.
Like,
play 5 minutes of the game and
do it blindfolded.
Oh, you know what they even could have done? Like just to make it funnier is
dress up as Jesus.
Your teammate should have had to tackle you, and then Bertram could have been like, more tackling.
Offense, defense.
Well, I did like, and I feel like I wish we got more of this from teams, but I liked that we got a little snippet of Garrett talking about what winning the $1 million would be like for him, how huge it would change his life. He can take his wife on a true wedding anniversary trip. He can also get his daughter a service dog. I love these little moments because it brings out the human side of our to connect with them a little bit deeper. And I feel like for this penultimate leg, rather than 30 minutes of river dancing, they could have put more moments of this with like Steven, with John and Greg, with Rob and Corey. We're at the penultimate leg. Let's hear why they want to win $1 million.
And also, here's my big problem with Rob and Corey that really struck me when I was watching it. What about the mom? As a mom, I am now like, what about the mom? We never hear them talk about her. I want more mom story. How does she feel about all of this? How does she fit into this? I'm just like, I feel missing because I am the mother. Also, if the person who wins does not buy Garrett's daughter a motherfucking service dog, then they are shameful. Like, just get her a service dog. Like, she needs it. I hate our American system that this is how he needs to get his daughter a service dog, but also just do it. Like, she is clearly an angel. He's clearly a loving father. Just get her a service dog.
Yeah.
And I really like Joel and Garrett. I think they're just like likable humans running the race, having a good time with a friend. Like, they've just been so fun to watch. I think they're just having a great time. Like, I thought it was such a great
And they're fans. Like they're
great.
Also, Garrett's with the big beard, right?
Joel.
I swear I knew that, and then I said the wrong name. Anyway, Joel. For anyone who's not following Joel on Instagram, he's going for a Guinness World Record for most candy canes.
Oh, I saw that. That was so.
So send good vibes his way. You know, it'll only be his 13th Guinness World Record for beards.
I feel like Riley and Madison should try to give him a run.
Right, I was like, his beard isn't even that big compared to some of the
cleaning
beards
up.
we know.
Yeah, I mean, right, like that guy from the Beard Art Challenge a few seasons ago.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
I feel like, Alana, this is probably one of your favorite moments of the episode was this task.
You know how I was screaming? I was like, and Leo's like, oh, this is going to be so easy. And I was like, no, James Joyce is crazy because it's not grammatical and it doesn't make sense.
It was very weird.
And then I can't remember who it was. One of the brothers was like, this is like Dr. Seuss on steroids. And I immediately went to text. We had to read, when I studied abroad in London, we were forced to read Ulysses. And I didn't finish it. I couldn't do it. It's like 1,000 pages of that.
Oh,
There's like not a plot. It's like exploratory experimental fiction. It's crazy.
it doesn't even make sense.
No, and it takes place over one day. Like it's crazy. It's this wild, and it's set in Dublin, which is why it's cool that they're doing this in Dublin. It's wild. But I was so delighted. I was like screaming. I was like, this is it. I want more poetry challenges. I want more fiction challenges. Again, super culturally relevant. Like it was such loved it.
We were really impressed with everyone for different reasons. The one that stood out to me was Joel and Garrett, because again, I'm mixing them up, but I think it was Garrett who started, right? Garrett with the mustache who went first, and he was struggling, right? And
I can't remember. No, I think it was Joel.
I think it was Joel.
Okay.
I think it was Joel.
So Joel was really struggling, and I was really impressed with how he didn't freak out. He didn't give up. It was like he waited for the little flicker of neurons to just get going. It reminded me a little of the sauerkraut challenge, where we were like, we have to let our minds work. Mm-hmm. And they do, if maybe, you know, and then what was even more impressive, or as impressive, is Garrett going second, having to wait through all of that and still remember all of those words in that crazy order.
Here's the person I was most impressed by far was Annalee, because she was so stressed. And I was like, I'm impressed with you for being able to turn down your stress enough. And your brain is like, her brain was clearly spinning and she was clearly upset, and yet she still did it. And I was like, I thought it might have taken her a really long time, because like when I get stressed like that, my brain shuts off. So I thought that was really cool.
I was not that surprised, because Annalee's perspective on the race, I think, was that she was not the problem and she was not going to be the problem.
Ooh, we just lost
Bye, Will. His laptop probably died.
Are you guys in the same place? You should just
there he is.
Right. Nice.
I thought this was a fun little task. And like you said, rooted in Dublin. It would have been fun maybe if they like messed up, they had to chug a beer and then do it again.
Yes.
Oh God.
Yeah, I wanted them to, there should have been more drinking in the Dublin.
The beer looked good. When Phil drank it, I was like, yes, Phil.
They should drink a Guinness. It's Dublin.
Even though it was hard, I dislike any challenge that anyone can do on the first time, with the exception of the French waiter challenge, which Greg and John absolutely demolished, which I wish I did that recap, because I have more to say about that one. But that's an exception. But like in general, if there's a challenge that anyone gets on the first time and then another team gets on the second time, I'm like, come on.
It should be longer.
Clearly, like you said, there needs to be beer, or there needs to be longer prose or whatever.
There are pages of Ulysses that are single sentences. Like they could have picked something much harder.
Will, what did you say?
My idea was that they should have had to hold trays of beer while saying it, which would have been so hard, because you're like focusing on
your brain is thinking,
things.
That's such a good idea. Yes.
While we're
really good idea.
While we're shitting on challenges, I would just like to bring up one of my least favorite challenges ever, which is souvlaki. And here's why. First of all, because it's one fucking word, right? And it's like, what, 8 letters? what is this? Like a monkey could do that. And then also, it's transliteration. It's a different alphabet. Right. So you're asking them to say the English letters for a Greek word, which could be spelled in different ways, but moreover, it's not even like the language of the country you're in. Like they should have had to learn the name of the Greek characters or spell it, or like just more than that, but like just for starters.
I remember when this happened and he was so agitated because Leo speaks Russian, so he like knows about alternate like it's not Cyrillic also, is it?
No, there's actually a couple characters in common.
I feel like he was so
cases,
he was like, it's not the same alphabet.
Right. It's like it's like if you asked how does a cat spell meow? And then it's like MEOW. And it's like, no, cats don't actually say meow and spell it MEOW. They say
we've just given it the like when they on season 31 when they were in Laos and they had to learn the alphabet and they had to recite it in order. They had to actually learn the sound of the alphabet in the country, and I loved that. I thought that was so good.
I forgot about that challenge. That was a great challenge. Yeah.
It sounds like, Leo, you have a future in challenge producing.
Yeah, we're all together. I love the idea of them holding the Guinness. That's so fun.
I keep my resume brushed up.
Yeah.
We did talk about this maybe about a recap or two ago about the tasks themselves. I do think that they do a really good job at like creating them. I just think the thing that they can't really anticipate, though, is like a team who can get it on the first try. Because there might be people in the challenge testing who don't, and they're probably basing it off that. Yeah. Like, oh, this is going to be really tricky. And then they come in and they do it in one attempt, and everyone's like, well, okay. Like, I feel like it's sometimes hard to anticipate.
That's why I say, and I should have said, like, you're right. It's not that one team gets it on the first try, but when you see one team get it on the first try, one team get it on the second, or even two teams getting on the second try. It's just not difficult. Like it's a throwaway. And like you spend all this money, like all this time, like you only race once a year, like you fly everyone all around the world and you're spelling souvlaki? Come on.
Well, it also just, I mean,
still.
Yeah.
It also just like for the trajectory of this leg, it really never allowed another team or the order to shift, which is not exciting as a racer, but I think as like a viewer or just for, I don't know, more story, more kind of dynamic episode, like Steve and Annalee just never had a chance. Once they got behind, they just had no chance.
The one exception, maybe exception that proves the rule, is this episode and last episode, the big exciting shift was navigation. Yeah. Right? It was when they couldn't find the subway last time, and this time Steve and Annalee like taking a wrong turn.
Yeah, they couldn't find the
stadium. And that was fun to see.
But speaking of navigation, remember how they left the roadblock and they were trying to follow Greg and John? They ended up getting to the Riverdance before Greg and John. Greg and John were the last team to even
There's another navigation.
So
that was impressive. Yeah.
I know you guys have to leave soon, so just to wrap up the pit stop really quick, they had to check into the St. Patrick's Cathedral and find Phil on the pit stop. In first place, and finally getting first, I was so excited, was Rob and Corey. I just felt like their time was coming. So well earned and deserved by these two. In second place, John and Greg. And then in third, rounding up the final three teams are Joel and Garrett. And then sadly, we say goodbye to Steve and Annalee, who are the last to check in. And based on our exit interview with them, it sounded like it actually was pretty close. Them getting to the pit stop, maybe like, was it 10 to 15 minutes? Well, like it really.
That's hard.
Well, so they let us know like a little secret detail is that they had to go back and to a parking garage because they paid wrong. So producers made them go back, which they were like, it took us 30 minutes to go do that and come back to a challenge. And that's hard because she was just like, that's what I'll think about forever is that the fact that I had to go back to pay at a parking garage. And then I was 10 minutes behind making it to the final three.
That's so hard. That's so interesting because I was mad at our season because there were moments where people weren't forced to do things like that. Like I remember Riley and Madison parked in the wrong spot at the Chantilly challenge, and I was
they parked right next to it.
I was so agitated about it because I was like, you didn't have to run, you didn't have to search for the marked parking, and you weren't penalized for it. I thought for sure they were going to be made to wait at the pit stop for like some X period of time. So it's interesting. Like, I wonder how the producers decide that, like being forced, especially because like, how do you get out of a parking garage if you paid wrong? Like, it's not like she drove through the barrier.
Sounds like she got out of the parking garage just fine.
Yeah.
It's like with your sound, it's your audio and your camera guy. Did they just not realize about the marked parking? Maybe they forgot.
Right.
Like I just, because you're essentially running as a team of 4. So I feel like if those 2 don't catch on and they can't report it back to production, like, oh, they parked in the wrong spot, like it never gets to the higher up. So that's a good point. Yeah.
That's
to go back. Yeah. With Steve and Annalie too, they also told us that they had an extra task this leg that didn't air. And I would have loved to have seen this, maybe cut Riverdance just a little bit shorter and shown they had to like rappel down the side of the Megatron in the stadium before the road.
I thought that because Phil started that beginning of that challenge introduction standing on that really high thing. And I thought for sure there was going to be a heights component because he was standing up there. That actually makes a ton of sense. Yep. That's so interesting. I mean, I guess it was just like not hard at all, so they just cut it.
Maybe it didn't shake up the place enough either.
Kind of
didn't cut Souvlaki.
That's so fascinating.
They didn't have flashing letters to spell Guinness or anything.
Right. There's so much you could do.
In Gaelic.
There could have been some Gaelic stuff.
And that's what I was saying too. I really wanted them
that in the past.
They needed to say it in like the native tongue, whatever they were doing.
The greeter said like hello or welcome or something in Gaelic, but that was all we got. Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, that would have been fun. I feel like I was only a little relieved by the Steve and Annalie leaving thing because I was so worried about Steve's heart. So long.
Yeah.
But I was like, give that man a rest.
Yeah. We didn't want that to, we didn't need Steve to take any more risks.
What did you say when he was
Steve said, I took risks like I never took before. I'm like, yeah, cardiac risks. Like, you know,
so weird. I just can't stop thinking about that stairs challenge that they did for no reason.
Yeah.
I felt like he was running.
It would have been fun, though, I think, to see Steve and Annalie in the final 3 because, again, just that fire Annalie brings. And when, if finale time, I just can only imagine.
Oh, my God, she would be.
Steve and Annalie would have been, in the finale.
Yeah.
Dad! Come on, Dad!
It felt so bad. It was so. I can't wait for Annalie to get old so her body can operate like his. And then she thinks about all of this. I was like, damn, girl.
Well, we're down to our final 3 teams. Rob and Corey, Greg and John, Joel and Garrett. Our final episode next week, the finale taking place in Seattle. It's going to be another night leg, and which I don't think they really touched on in the preview, but the finale is actually structured to be a scramble. So going back to the premiere of season 34, they could do all the tasks in any order that they wished.
Awesome.
So I'm curious if that's going to shake things up with this final leg, if it's going to feel linear or what. But I think that was a very interesting choice to do.
That's exciting. I also didn't realize until just now when you showed the final 3 teams that they're all men.
I also noticed that earlier this episode.
I did not, and I was like, I miss Annalie for that reason also.
Yeah, I'm not a big fan that it's all male teams at the end. I do think there are people online who've actually made a good point that in 35 seasons, this is the first time it's happened. So it's not that big of a deal.
That's cool. I actually had no idea.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah.
But also as a viewer, I'm just kind of like, ugh. It just would have been fun to have Annalie thrown in there.
At least the one thing I will say is that there is
still be at the finish line to I'm standing next to Phil.
Rip it out of there.
There is age diversity.
There is. There's
3
a lot of
older adults.
There's a lot of incredible diversity in the season. I think it's really cool to see Rob and Corey go this far.
Yeah, that's just
there's
been
a lot
amazing
of
to watch.
there's a lot of it, and also fascinating how they've accommodated for challenges like the James Joyce
educational
challenge.
for everyone.
Yeah,
also,
it's great.
just getting people to understand.
But it would be nice if there was just a little uterus action.
And it's in our neck of the woods in Seattle, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, I'm excited to see
Wasn't
Seattle.
that the Space Needle? I'm pretty sure that's what
Yeah.
We'll go on the top of that Space Needle.
I'm still waiting for a Boston finale because
We
it's
gotta
so
go.
difficult to navigate in Boston, but it'll have to happen later.
Yeah, we were really hoping for a Boston
Oh my god,
finale
a self-drive
for ourselves.
Boston finale
Yeah, that
would
would've been
destroy
hilarious.
everyone. It would be so funny.
We got to go do Hanukkah.
Yeah, we got to go do Hanukkah stuff.
We love you too.
Happy Hanukkah.
Thanks for joining us and
Thank you for
enjoy your
having
weekend.
us.
Yeah, it's so fun being couch commentators with you both.
Yeah,
Always. Oh, I love hearing your guys' opinions.
much easier from the couch.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Have a
Bye,
good
y'all.
Bye.
Bye.
Right.
Well, babe, I mean, that wraps it up. We are with our final 3 teams. One of them will be joining us in the winner's circle. Who of the 3 teams do you think is most likely going to win this season? Or who would you like to see win?
Personally, I think I would love to see Rob and Corey. I think they've just had a great run, and I love how much they love the race. I think the quote that Corey said was like, "Every day is my favorite day of the Amazing Race," which I think that's just so lovely.
I love it.
Yeah, so I think just for that sake, I love them. I think a father-son would be great to win. I think they would be great winners.
I think Rob and Corey would be great winners as well. I mean, honestly, any 3 of these teams winning, I think this is what makes it a fun finale. Is any of the 3 teams winning, I think is going to be great. Like, I think that they all have raced really well. They seem to really appreciate and enjoy the experience, which they don't take for granted. So I love that as well. And they're all just genuine fans of the experience. I think just based on like the statistics of the season, I think Greg and John have the best chance with how well that they've raced to maybe kind of outshine Robin, Corey, and Joel and Garrett. There have been a few times throughout this season where I don't know if it's foreshadowing or some people online have been saying it could be foreshadowing, where Joel and Garrett have, forgotten their fanny pack, or they've lost their Amazing Race notebook at one of the tasks, where it's like, I wonder if this is foreshadowing a little fatal mistake on Joel and Garrett's part, where that could put them behind in the final leg, especially if there's a memory task coming up. I think Robin and Corey would be incredible winners. I would love to see them win as well. So I think it's a toss-up in my mind between Rob and Corey and John and Greg. I think it's going to go to either one of those 2 teams. But again, I think all 3 are deserving, and it's been so fun to watch all of them.
Yeah, I agree. Everybody, I mean, they're all 6 of these contestants or racers are great. I think whoever wins deserves to win, and I'm excited. To be honest, I really don't love a scramble finale.
I don't like
I think that's like to do an entire race where you have to do the same route as every team, and then at the very end it gets thrown in your face of like go your own route. I think it's just I don't know, it takes me out of it, to be honest. It takes me out of the race part of it.
I'm wondering, though, if it has a lot to do with the 90-minute episode and editing it for more of suspense purposes, right? Like, let's say one team, like for you and me, for example, we were like an hour and a half ahead of Hung and Chi on our finale. And so it was really hard to edit that to make it look like there was a chance.
That's not my problem, though.
No. I know that, but I'm just saying, like, from a viewer standpoint for a 90-minute episode, is it more fun to splice and cut up a scramble finale where it could feel a little bit
it gives them a little more capabilities to make it look close. And I mean, to be honest, I don't know how close it is.
As a viewer,
it makes it really exciting. I agree. If I were a racer, I would hate it. I would absolutely hate it. I would be upset. I would be way more stressed. I think for us, when we did Philippines and how it was like a city sprint or whatever they called it, that felt more possible, because think about how close we were with every team that entire leg of the Philippines. Like, that amount of close competition for an hour and a half of a finale would, to me, feels a little bit more exciting, because you're not taking taxis, you're just running around, you're like doing everything the same, you're starting the same. I think a city sprint or whatever they called it would be better suited than a scramble.
That's an interesting point.
Because teams could never see each other.
But then I would play devil's advocate and say I almost think a city sprint makes more sense for a penultimate leg. Like, my biggest criticism for this leg of the race is that I think for a penultimate leg, I didn't think it was that exciting. I feel like this just felt like a leg of the race that would have been like a middle of the race leg. For a penultimate, I just wanted bigger, more fighting to be in a spot in the top 3, and it just didn't give that to me. Where, like, if you think about our city sprint in Manila, yeah, the teams were neck and neck, and like things were always shifting, and they had the live scoreboard where the team placements were always changing. Like, I wanted more of that for a penultimate leg, where I just felt very linear for the most part.
Yeah.
And I'm trying not to be too critical, but
we haven't seen it yet.
I know. I'm not trying to be too critical, but I think because I'm watching earlier seasons and I'm kind of doing this Amazing Race rewatch, there's a lot of elements from earlier seasons that made me fall in love with the show. And I think they haven't really seen much of that. I think our season, despite the alliance side of the edit, actually went back to the basics. It felt like old school Amazing Race. We were in a new country every single leg, which had never been done before. And it just felt competitive. I don't know. I'm hoping the finale is exciting. I'm really hopeful for the scramble. That's all. Well, any final thoughts, babe?
No, I mean, I think this was better than the Sweden episode. I think 90 minutes is just hard. I think it's hard to fit the balance of like story elements for like getting to know these racers versus the challenge part of it. I do agree with you that the Riverdance was just a little too long. And I love dancing and I love Riverdance. Fun fact, my mom had a Riverdance instructor come to her studio when I was a kid in the 90s to teach her kids how to do Riverdance. So would I have done that challenge? Yeah, absolutely. Yes, I would have. And I probably would have gotten on the first try. Especially with these judging criteria. Yeah, I mean, this season has just been so fun. It's been so fun to watch this group of people race. I am excited that the finale is next week. Yeah, I think it's just been a really fun season.
Yeah, it's been fun. The teams have been entertaining. I love that the race is back in a post-COVID, season. It's been really fun. It's been really great. I don't really have any final thoughts other than I'm going to be in New York for the finale next week. Cannot wait to meet all of these teams in person.
Is everybody going?
Everyone with the exception of 3.
People or teams?
3 people. Robin can't. And then Sheridan and Alexandra, I don't believe, are going either. So everyone from this season's going. There's about 25 to 30 alumni who are also going, spanning from season 4 all the way to season 34. The fangirl me is so excited, obviously, to be in the same space with a lot of these amazing racers who I've grown up loving and watching. So it's just going to be a really good time. Cannot wait to watch it with them and welcome a new team into the winner's circle. It's going to be fun. Well, thank you so much, everyone, for watching our recap this week. We'll be back for the finale next week at some point. It'd be fun to do another winner's circle recap where we have the winning team and some of the past winners join us like we did with Kim and Penn for season 33. So be on the lookout for our finale recap. It's only a matter of time, and we hope you have a great weekend, and we'll be back soon. Bye, everyone.
Bye.